Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Four Quarter Talk podcast with myself, Jack Brazil, and my co-host, Josh Masoke. Say what's up, bro.
What's up? I'm ready to get into this, man.
Ready to get into
It's been a
this.
while again.
I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas with a few family members that you could see. But finally, the NBA is back. Well, not finally. It feels like just yesterday, the last season wrapped up with the Lakers being crowned champions, but we're back for a new season in what is the shortest off-season in NBA history. I feel for 35-year-old LeBron only having 71 days of rest, but we're back. It definitely does show you started slowly, and that's reflecting badly on my fantasy.
You're feeling that on your fantasy squad, right?
I was actually considering offering someone like I was gonna offer a trade like LeBron for like Trae Young or James Harden or something, but I don't know. We'll see. I'll see what I do with LeBron. I feel like it's LeBron, so he'll pick it up, but first few games, like Montrezl Harrell has been getting more fantasy points than him and stuff like that. But yeah, we're back to talk about the new NBA season. And it's been a good start. We just seen the completion of the first week of the season, had the Christmas Day games, the Boxing Day games. Josh, what were some of your takeaways from the first week of the NBA?
So first go over that Christmas. That was probably one of the worst Christmas lineups I've ever had, like that since I started watching.
Yeah.
Like that was so boring. No game was close. Like
Yeah.
It was terrible. But now with the overall takeaways, my first one is that I feel like the Lakers, with both how they've played, how the chemistry is, and how their offseason went, they're clearly still the team to beat.
For sure. Well, when you hint to the off season, you're clearly talking about the two them extending the contracts of their two stars and obviously getting their bench stronger with Montrezl Harrell and Dennis Schroeder, and they've looked like they've gelled right in. And obviously, there's no more doubts about Anthony Davis. You know, I would have loved to see him in Chicago, but it looks like he's there to stay with the Lakers for the foreseeable future. But a thing you do have to worry about with the Lakers, obviously, they've just come off the shortest offseason in NBA history. Will there be some tired legs out there? We've already seen Anthony Davis had to sit out of last night's game. I'm sure LeBron will have some load management going up. So,
I definitely anticipate load management, especially for LeBron.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where the value of these off-season signings is going to come through with players like Schroeder and Montrezl Harrell. They're going to have to carry them for quite a lot of this regular season. There's definitely a chance that this Lakers team isn't going to look as good in the regular season, but I think they're just made for the playoffs. And with acquisitions, like they've basically got the type of depth that we were talking about with the Clippers last year, with those two, six man of the year candidates coming off the bench, and they've gone off to a great start. And then you've got Marc Gasol, who's definitely going to be big in the playoffs.
Yeah.
You've just got a lot of players that are taking pressure off of LeBron and allowing them to, rest AD and LeBron. And even, last game, even though LeBron was playing, you could see that he was kind of resting on court type. Like he would just allow other players to run the offense.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got Kyle Kuzma stepping up a bit. He's probably a lot more confident
that new
since
contract
getting his
as well.
New extension.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and they're trying to get a lot of their players locked up. They're in talks with Dennis Schroeder about extending. So they seem like they've found the team that they want. A team that works around LeBron and AD, and they just want to give everyone security. Obviously, they gave a long-term contract to KCP, who'd been there for a while as well. So, yeah, they've got the squad that they want, that they see that they can repeat with, and they're definitely the team to beat, in my opinion.
Yeah. So you're saying they're your early season favorites then, pretty much. You expect them to go back
I feel
to
like
back.
the champion. Yeah, at this point, obviously it's early, but I at least, in saying the team to beat, I mean that I feel like the champion will either be them or will have to beat them.
Yeah.
So in other words, I feel like they're going to be in the finals or at least conference finals for sure.
Well, that brings me on to my first takeaway, which is the Brooklyn Nets.
That was one of mine.
Newly formed super team under the tutelage of new first-time head coach, Steve Nash. And in the first week of the NBA, they've looked electric. Those two together, Kevin Durant and
Steve
Kyrie
Kerr
Irving.
2.0.
Yeah, they've just gelled straight away. There was no bedding in period at all. It's just, you put two insanely talented players together, kind of like AD and LeBron, and it just worked straight away. I feel like their game complements each other as well. They take turns at ISO in, but they can also move the ball well as well to each other. I feel like watching them early, they always know where each other is, which is a really good trait to have from your first week of playing together. So they look like definitely a favorite coming out of the East. There is a few good teams at the top of the East, but they have really stood out to me. Obviously, they've got Mike D'Antoni behind the scenes as well as the assistant coach. It'll be interesting to see. I feel like D'Antoni will be vital in Steve Nash's learning as a coach. I don't really feel like there's better people to learn from, but he's one of the best. He's a long-time NBA coach, long-time NBA assistant coach.
Especially offensively, yeah.
Especially offensively, yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely put in a great system. Watching them, I've seen a lot of their players have, you've got Karis LeVert. There's just a lot of confidence there. They're gelling for sure. I was watching a game, quite a strange game last night, against the Hornets. It was surprising. Obviously, the Hornets won, but it was interesting to see because the first two games they'd won by quite big margins.
Yeah,
they've been blowing out teams, so it was interesting to see how they played in clutch situations. And obviously, you've got two of the clutchest players in the league, so that helps. But it was interesting to see how they distributed the ball in terms of whose turn it was and things like that. It was pretty even.
Yeah,
and they've definitely got there will be growing pains in some way because they haven't been tested in any sort of crazy way yet.
Yeah.
But now I'm definitely like what I'm seeing.
That first L last night.
Yeah. And then KD, he's just defying like history right now. Just looking even remotely close to what he was, but he's just looking like he hasn't lost his.
Look, he hasn't. Yeah.
Scary.
Just shows you how talented he is. Just come back and the exact same player.
Physically, like.
Yeah,
one of the first plays of his first game, he just blew right by his player and just dunked it. Like, he just showed that
he's a cheat code, isn't he? He's the type of player you make on 2K and you average 40 a game.
He's the type of player 2K doesn't make you, doesn't let you make anymore. But we do have to talk about also Spencer Dinwiddie. It was just announced that he partially tore his ACL.
Mm-hmm. I think they said they'll be out for the rest of the season.
It'll be a blow to them. Yeah. But also tying in with their success so far and his injury, I feel like the possibility of them trading for Harden should be out the window at this point.
Yeah.
If not before the injury, especially now, because I feel like they should just keep their depth. They've got good talent that works together. Yeah. There's no need to add another ball handler.
It might overcomplicate things.
And now with Dinwiddie out, they don't really have the pieces anyway to make that trade happen.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I also think they shouldn't have even considered it before. Well, they maybe should have considered it, but I was hearing Charles Barkley saying, trade Dinwiddie, LeVert, and Allen for Harden, which is obviously is just ridiculous. Like I don't see a situation.
It wasn't a good deal anyway.
Yeah, I didn't see a situation where each team could have, especially the Rockets could have got equal value for James Harden. So it was a bit of a stab in the dark. Really seemed to suggest that. I know that's where he wanted to go, James Harden, but but they definitely got a good thing going. They will be sitting out tonight, both of them against the Grizzlies. So we'll see how their bench players can step up. Karis LeVert is one of my early picks to be Sixth Man of the Year. He started the season well. Jarrett Allen as well, doing what he does, blocking shots, grabbing rebounds. So that team looks like it can have championship aspirations. I feel like Jarrett Allen
should be starting.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I feel like Jarrett Allen,
especially in the regular season.
DeAndre Jordan starts because he's like best friends with KD and Kyrie. I guess I think that's what's going on there. But he definitely looks great.
But maybe that's part
of the whole team dynamic. Just looks.
Maybe that's
great.
Part of like trying to help them bed into the team. Do you know what I mean? Because they've got experience playing
Yeah, the
with each other for
chemistry,
years.
for sure.
Team
It
USA.
matters, yeah.
So that could be part of that reason. But Jarrett Allen has looked really good. So I would probably expect him to come in at some point. But yeah, the Nets can definitely have championship aspirations this season. What else have you seen from the first week of the NBA, Josh?
It's gonna be a long season for Stephen Curry.
His back's gonna be hurting, man.
A long season. Not gonna lie, I've loved Steph Curry since I've watched him.
Yeah.
Since 2013, I think, when he lit up the Knicks. You know, he's been a great player to watch. I don't understand people that hate on him.
Yeah.
He just like it's amazing watching him. Even when he used to torch when he torched OKC a couple of years back, you know, love to see it. But it's gonna be. He has nothing to prove, right? He's already at worst the second best, you know, point guard of all time.
First ballot for Hall of
This
Famer.
is gonna be first ballot Hall of Fame, you know, back to back MVP, first unanimous MVP.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be interesting to see his ability to elevate the floor of a team, because he's definitely a ceiling raiser. You know, you put him on a good team, he's gonna make them great. But you've seen players in the past, you know, MVP type season, both in back-to-back seasons now. We've thought, you know, he's about to go off. You know, he's about to carry this team, and he might have to show a bit more of his ability to, you know, work with less talent. It's not a great fit at all. I mean, you got Kelly Oubre, who's what was he like 0 for 31 with field goals that aren't dunks.
He cannot hit a jump shot to save his life at the moment.
Andrew Wiggins, you know, but obviously you have teams like, you know, the team that LeBron was dragging, you know, a couple of years back into the finals. You got, you know, Westbrook in his MVP season with a terrible supporting cast. So, we after Clay's injury, we thought that he'd at least be able to, you know, drag them into the playoffs or at least close. I mean, right now they're looking at the worst team in the league. So, you know, it's just, strange to see.
Saying that, they beat the Bulls last night. Oh, man.
I mean, that was a battle of, like, I think both teams
trash versus
like,
garbage. Pretty much.
I mean, it was like, it's basketball. A team has to win, you know. There's no draws, so they can't both lose.
But on that point of, you know, there's been Curry's always had, well, in his successful years, he's always had great players around him, and there's always been that thing of LeBron's had to carry this team against you. Westbrook has had to carry this team against you. I think those two players though are more, their games are more suited to be, you know, the carrier. You know, they both LeBron and Westbrook do a bit of everything, whereas Curry's maybe a bit more one-dimensional. And you know, I don't think Curry can necessarily make players better around him. Like, as you see,
I feel like he does it in a different way. So obviously his presence alone, just the gravity that comes with him when he crosses half court, you know, just opens up the game for everyone. And then obviously if the players can't, you know, take advantage of that and they can't shoot, then, you know, that's just how it goes. Yeah. I mean, you've seen that with, you know, LeBron and Westbrook. You know, they're great at driving and kicking, but like if the player misses, the player misses. But Curry is in this different type of category right now with, you know, with the LeBrons, or more so with KD, where when you start getting into that top 20, he's trying to differentiate himself. You know, you've got his fans that will try to put him in the top 10 and things like that. You know, when you get into that top 15, top 10 range, that's where the nitpicking really comes in. I mean, LeBron is highly scrutinized, but he's a top 2 player at worst. So you do want to try, you want to see what he can do, what Curry can do in these situations. But obviously, you know, Draymond should be coming back soon, so we should be able to see, you know, a little bit more. But yeah, so far, I can understand them losing, but him shooting horrendously as well. That's the part that worried me. But he'll be back.
Yeah, in the first half yesterday against the Bulls, he didn't shoot well. In the second half, he started to remind me of the Curry we all know and love. But then you do have to look at the other players on that roster. You know, the reason I got clown for this, but the reason I drafted Andrew Wiggins in my fantasy was because I expected him to step up and, you know, kind of fill the Klay Thompson role as the second scorer.
We all wanted to, yeah.
And he's just been bricking everything right now. So I dropped him already, but no, I expect him to step up. He hasn't done that. I expected Kelly Oubre to hit his shots when he needs to, but then also be that defensive enforcer.
I was disappointed when we traded him away to the Warriors. I thought he was a pretty good young player. Obviously, this is just like, you know, a historically bad cold streak right now. But
he's not going to be this bad the rest of the season.
He's definitely better than he's showing. He's better than he's showing. I mean, he's not going to shoot 0% other than dunks. Yeah. Like,
the one player I've been impressed with though, James Wiseman. He's come in. He knows his role.
Oh yeah.
He plays it well. I feel like he'll be top 2 rookie of the year candidate for sure. I feel like he'll put up good numbers, even if those numbers don't translate into wins. I feel like the numbers will be there. And I think having Draymond back will also help James Wiseman as well. But I think a lot of people probably did overestimate the Golden State Warriors this season. I feel like people maybe had them sneaking in at the 8th seed, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think they'll be well out of the playoffs.
I see that. I see what you're saying, but I don't think there's an excuse. If you are truly, you know, currently a top 5 to 7 player, or you're an all-time, you know, top, you know, 10 to 15 to 20 player, you know, top 2 point guard of all time, then he can at least have them in that, you know, that Trailblazers range, because, you know, they're doing the play-in tournament again, you know, 7 through 10.
Yeah.
So if he's not at least in that range of being able to, you know, put his team in position to be, you know, at least in that playoff tournament, so they can at least get in, then I don't know. That will kind of change my perception a little bit.
I don't think a player of Curry's mold and Curry's skill set can carry a modern day NBA team that is required for them to be in that sport. I don't think that's. I don't know.
Yeah,
he can create space for others with his threat, but I don't think he's good enough passer. I'm not sure how well he can conduct a whole offense. Yeah, I don't think he's of that mold.
I understand that on the highest levels. Like, I understand, like, but I'm not asking him to, you know, win the championship. I'm not even asking him to win a game in the first round. I'm not even asking him to make the playoffs. I'm just saying, if he can't be in that, you know, they can't be fighting for the first seed again, you know. They've got to at least be, because they even expanded the play-in tournament to the 10th seed, I think. So if they're not even in that conversation, then I understand his play style, but at some point, you know, he's a top 20 player of all time. He's a top 2 point guard. You know, if he can't at least do that, then it is a bit worrying, because he does have the skills.
Yeah,
it's really early right now, but I feel like he definitely needs to. If that's the case, then if he just shoots well himself, and then, you know, when they get Draymond Green back to do more playmaking, I think they should at least be, you know, a 9th seed. Like, I understand the West is tough, but at that bottom half, you know, you've got a few teams tanking as well, so it shouldn't be impossible. It's not an impossible task.
I think Curry's goal this season should be get close to that 3-point record. You know, try average high 20 points. But I feel like, I don't know. I feel like if it continues this way, if you know, the role players on that team continue to be really bad, then they could enter tank mode pretty soon. You know, they could be, front office could be giving
with a healthy Curry, that's unacceptable.
You think?
With a healthy Curry, that's completely unacceptable.
But he is aging.
Think about this.
He needs to look to the future.
Huh? Nah, he's aging. Yeah, but nah. You can't.
Klay Thompson can't stay healthy. Draymond Green can't stay healthy.
No, but think about it. Like, he's aging, but if you're going to talk about his style of play, that's like, there's nothing that's shown me. Everything that he's effective in and that's made him a 2-time MVP isn't really, there's nothing that isn't there anymore when I look at him. Like, he can still
But what I'm also saying, Curry hasn't been able to show so far that he doesn't need a reliable number 2. He needs that person. So if they can't offer him that person this season, which it looks like they can't, there's no point of trying to force, you know, trying to that limbo of all right, well, we might go for the 8th seed, or do we look to the future where all our 3 stars who've won us championships are aging, they can't stay healthy? Do we look to the future and try to stop draft picks?
If that happens, there's no way I could ever see him as the best point guard of all time. Like, there's just no way whatsoever, and he's outside of 20 as well, because there's no way. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, imagine. Nah, that's crazy. That's
I don't think that's crazy.
I mean, he's regarded as a top 7 player. No, trust me, like, you'd have too much pride as a player of that magnitude to like even accept a tank.
Maybe I'm underrating Curry's legacy a bit here, but I don't know. I just don't see how it benefits.
Because
I don't see how it benefits
before they were
like tell me how them finishing 9th or 10th helps Curry's legacy. It doesn't. Them playing for a playoff.
Them getting
Go on.
a team getting to a team. Like, look at okay, let's go with KD or Westbrook. Who, let's say KD right now. Yeah, I see a lot of people putting Curry above KD in all-time rankings. Like, I see that very consistently. Okay. And KD in his MVP season, he had Russ out. I think Ibaka was out sometimes. Like, sometimes his best teammate was like, who even was it? Like, it was like Steven Adams before his prime. No, he wasn't even starting sometimes, I think. But you had people in and out. There's been players of this magnitude and even worse than him that have had to deal with this. Plus, even Curry himself, before Draymond Green was even a starter, and around the time where I think it was the 2013 season. So before their first ring, no, I think maybe even a couple seasons before that, they were able to push the Spurs, who just come off a championship. Am I thinking about the right year? But anyway, before, like, a couple of years before he was, like, known for being, a player of that magnitude, he was still able to, like, almost carry, like, teams that didn't have all-star talent, because Clay was still quite young. So now I just can't see a top 10 player.
But
I feel like every top 10 player in the league should be able to. Sorry.
What about LeBron's season before last, where the Lakers missed the playoffs? That hasn't affected his legacy at all.
Yeah, if LeBron
people are pointing to
games.
Yeah, but people.
I'm talking about if Curry finishes the season, there's no excuse for them tanking. Like, if at any point of this season and Curry is healthy, the Warriors think that it's in their best interest to tank, that's an indictment on Steph Curry.
I'm not sure. I think a lot of people look at the players around him and look at the scenario of Klay Thompson having another season-ending injury, Draymond Green missing some of the games at the start of the season. I think they'll look at it and say they'll give him a pass. I think they'll give him an excuse. That's what I think personally. We clearly disagree. Maybe
I think more of him then, because obviously we both, I admit as well, yeah, he's not like the same player as Westbrook in terms of getting players involved.
Yeah.
But he needs to show when players of this magnitude are put in certain positions, they have to show that they're able to do these things. Like, he can at least do, even if it's not his go-to method, he should be able to show that he can do it, even if it's not at an all-time level. I mean, the season before, Westbrook was with KD, and he wasn't doing that. But the time called for it when KD left. Like, you have to be able to adjust. Like, you can't. I'm not holding him to like a crazy standard here. There's teams way worse than him that we expected to be in that range. I mean, what the Grizzlies last year, they weren't nothing crazy. It wasn't a crazy supporting class. The Sacramento Kings 2 years ago were in the running for the playoffs as well. So it's not something crazy.
Yeah.
Like, for him to be in that range.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. If people are gonna hide Curry to that high regard, then he should try his best. But at the same time, I think the the team might view it differently. That's just what I think, because I don't think they get value out of finishing 10th or finishing 9th. But
oh yeah, but if Curry ends this season with like, you know, he's played amazingly, but they just couldn't make it, then that's different. But
yeah,
giving up, you know, going into tanking or whatever,
yeah,
you know, if he keeps shooting like he is now, then that's a whole different story, I think.
yeah.
But I don't know. I just feel like we wouldn't be having this discussion with any other player that we hold to that high of a regard.
Yeah, possibly. I feel like people might have been having this. Actually, no, because they tried to then. I was gonna say people might have been having this conversation with LeBron, but they just about missed out. So it's not like they stopped trying. But we'll see. It'll be a very interesting season for the Golden State Warriors. And I think a lot of it depends on players around Stephen Curry stepping up as well as himself. But to be fair, that second half against the Bulls that I watched last night, he was very good. So hopefully he can build on that. Whereas the people around him weren't very good. I actually don't know how we lost that game. They shot like 40% on the night. We shot like 52 or something. Zach LaVine at 30. All of our starters were in double figures. 4 of them were in 20 plus, and we lost. But hey, that's possible. On a Damian Lee 3-pointer out of all people. But
Damian Lee, man.
Yeah. Not the light skin point guard you would expect to be shooting the game with a shot.
Not in the Curry family, you know.
Yeah. He's married to a sister. Yeah. Anyway, I want to quickly talk about one of my takeaways, which has been a team that has impressed me, which I did expect them to be better, but not to this extent. I've been very impressed with the Atlanta Hawks so far. Obviously, they had a very good offseason. They brought in, what's his name, the Italian guy? What's his name? Gallinari, that's it. They acquired...
Oh, don't disrespect Gallinari now.
So I apologize.
OKC legend Gallinari.
They acquired Clint Capella halfway through last season. And from what I've seen so far, certain second and third year players such as Kevin Huerter, DeAndre Hunter, and Cam Reddish have looked a lot better this season. And Trae Young is Trae Young. You know, he's baby Steph Curry for a reason. I firmly expect them to be in the playoffs this season from what I've seen. They look very electric on the offensive side of the ball. They've got a lot of people that can shoot the ball, but also go inside. They've got good length with Cam Reddish, and Clint Capella is injured right now, but he'll come back and provide them some good length in the paint. So yeah, I've been really impressed with the Atlanta Hawks. Have you watched them at all, Josh?
Yeah. Going into the season, I think we were going to record a couple of weeks ago, but obviously, you know, things happen with
life
assignments and that. But they were going to be one of my winners of free agency, because I think they just knocked out of park. You know, they've just put a team around Trae Young that really has a solid chance of being, you know, they're a deep squad. You know, they managed to, you know, snag Bogdan Bogdanovic, who could have helped the Bucks. So, you know, they've just got a lot of players that fit around him. They've got a lot of players that really fit around Trae Young. And he's just been balling, you know, he's making that next progression. We're getting to the point where it's looking pretty even in terms of, you know, him and Luka, in terms of, it's not looking like a terrible trade anymore. Yeah. You know, it's really looking like they've got a good thing there. I think they didn't manage to secure John Collins long term. He's looking for a max deal, I think, and they're not quite there yet. So he will be going to restricted free agency. So that's one thing to look at, because they fit very well together. So it'd be interesting to see what happens there.
Well as well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But they're definitely a team that I see making the playoffs, and they've had probably the best offseason in my opinion. Obviously the Lakers building on, you know, a championship team, but in terms of a team that has really raised their level the most compared to where they were last season, you know, on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
Great looking team. And they're amazing to watch. I've always loved watching Trae Young though.
Yeah. He's just a walking bucket, really. He's so like slick, and you definitely can see shades of Steph Curry in there. But yeah, they've been very fun to watch, and I'll hope to follow the progression of Cam Reddish and DeAndre Hunter this year, as they look to be more integral pieces of that lineup. I feel like Cam Reddish is someone with a very high ceiling, but there's no reason why he can't contribute now. And he just looks like a very silky player, really. Same with DeAndre Hunter. He plays a little bit of a different role, but they've definitely got something good going for the future. That's for sure.
Yeah, they've got a lot of young players that go together. They've got some, older vets like Gallo who aren't too old, but they can contribute right now. So, yeah, they'll definitely be a team to look at going into the playoffs.
For sure. I also just wanted to talk quickly about the Chicago Bulls. I have to get some things off my chest. I watched
yours, bro.
I watched our 2 preseason games against the OKC Thunder. You lot. And I was very impressed with what I saw. Granted, it being at a lot of times your C and D teams, but there were some times against your A team, even though even your A team's not that strong. And we were really fluid in attack, moving the ball fast. Kobe White.
A's team not strong. We're the first seed in the Western Conference, but anyway.
But you got Kobe White. You was looking. Like, I fully invested a lot of stocks in Kobe White going into the season. I even told you this. I put it into our fantasy group chat. Invest stocks in Kobe White while you can. And he hasn't been great to start the season, to say the least. Doesn't really look like the player I saw in preseason. He looks a bit more timid, a bit more afraid. I'm not sure why that is. I was fully expecting him to take some of the playmaking responsibilities this year, some of the ball handling responsibilities this year. And a lot of times when I watch the Bulls this season, it doesn't look like they know where the ball should be, like whose hands the ball should be in. Zach LaVine hasn't been as aggressive as I would like, although last night he did have a fantastic game. Lauri Markkanen looks quite good, to be fair. I've always been a big fan of his. I think he has a lot of attributes and tools to be one of the best power forwards in the game. I think he's like the archetypal modern day power forward in a sense. 7 foot, has a quick release, not scared to shoot the 3. I would like to see him be a bit more of a bully at times, a bit more aggressive inside. But saying all this, I don't think I've ever seen as much of a lack of defensive effort as I've seen from the Bulls in the first 3 games. And that was typical under Jim Boylen. And you were hoping with the new era, with AK coming in, our new GM coming in, and then Billy Donovan coming in, you'd hope that those traits would, kind of stop showing themselves, but they look as prevalent as ever, really, which maybe tells you that Jim Boylen, although he was a bad coach, wasn't solely down to him.
Nah, yeah. What I will say is, it's a bit early. A lot of turnover. A lot of turnover for a young team. I think we started terribly last year, because there was a lot of change. A lot of players coming in, getting used to the system.
But that's the thing. There hasn't been much change in terms of personnel this season.
No, I mean front office wise. Philosophy and all of that. Getting used to that, and it's just a young team anyway. So it's a bit early. Obviously, you want to see a bit more improvement, a bit more quickly. But
well, I did see better things last night against the Warriors. But obviously that's a very poor Warriors team at the moment. And we still didn't even get the win against them, even though I feel like we did deserve it. But it's just what happens, So I do expect us to be better as Billy Donovan starts to get his points across and his ideas across. But I don't know. From what I've seen in the first 3 games, it doesn't look promising, and it doesn't look like the team I saw in preseason, which is worrying. That is worrying.
To be fair, though, a lot of the teams that didn't make it to the bubble that haven't played since March have looked a bit rusty as well.
Yeah,
So there's that as well.
There is factors I could look at to, suggest it isn't as bad as it seems. But right now, I'm not seeing much that I like.
Yeah.
But
yeah, these are all takeaways from just the first three games.
We're only 3 games in. The season's still very young, what I've been surprised at, and it's a pleasant surprise, obviously, is that Patrick Williams has been starting every game for us. He isn't getting crazy minutes, but he's starting alongside Lauri Markkinen, which a lot of people thought was going to be, how would their games clash or work together, seeing as they're both. I think Patrick Williams was put down as a power forward in the draft boards, in the mock drafts. So people were saying, why have we drafted a power forward? But he's slotting in at the 3 for now. And it hasn't affected Lauri Markkinen's game at all. Patrick Williams, I see a lot of things that I like about his game. He looks like quite a raw prospect, which is what you're going to get with the second youngest player that was drafted in the draft. He's only 19, you have to remember. But I do see a lot of things I like. Like he's got a better jump in there than I expected. He's quite smooth on that. He can create his own shot at times. He's obviously very athletic, long as well. He's got a long wingspan. So I feel like his ceiling is high. But I think we've got to be careful with how we use him, because obviously you don't want him to get overwhelmed by the NBA, like the adjustment. So I think Billy Donovan's got to be careful with how he uses Patrick Williams. But I'm not too upset at that pick earlier in the season because I feel like no rookies have really been standout so far. Would you agree, Josh? I feel like James Wiseman's been pretty good, but apart from that, Anthony Edwards has been pretty good as well. But apart from that, everyone's looked a bit. Avdija's been okay as well. I would have liked to seen him in a Bulls uniform, but everyone else has looked a bit, and that's kind of what we expected from this draft class.
Speaking of, second youngest rookie in the league, the first youngest would be Poku, and the undefeated first seed.
He's built like a
Oklahoma City Thunder.
He's built like a toothpick.
Yeah, man. We got our next KD right here.
I actually didn't know.
I'm actually good.
Oh, you lot actually? I didn't even know you lot were top of the West.
It's 1-0, bro.
Okay.
It's one game.
Okay. I didn't know you didn't play much.
Yeah. That's what I got to say about. OKC.
Yeah, but
everyone's picks.
See, your expectations are
the first seed. So
you don't have expectations for this team, do you? So I had expectations for this Bulls team to be at least better than last year. I tweeted the other day like the run for the 8 seed starts now, and they're 0-3. It probably won't take that many wins to get into the 8 seed, but yeah, man, they've disappointed me so far. But we'll see. Hopefully they can pick it up.
All right. So next topic, I just want to go over. Last night, crazy slate of games. With the 4 main ones.
I know it's coming.
The craziest ones.
I know it's coming.
So the Hornets beat the Nets in close game.
They actually look very good. I watched the first half of that, and Terry Rozier started the season very well. He obviously had that hot streak in Brooklyn coming off the bench. Not in Brooklyn, sorry, in Boston coming off the bench a couple seasons ago. But I didn't expect him. He dunked on KD, I saw. Gordon Hayward was very good last night as well. Yeah. He put up 28. They get contributions from a lot of different angles so far. It looks like. That was a surprise.
Interesting how they're using
Yeah.
Interesting how they're using LaMelo, having him come off the bench.
Pretty sparingly.
They're easing him in a bit.
Yeah.
But they're allowing him to make mistakes, but it's a bit of a weird fit though, definitely behind Rozier and
it's a very guard heavy team, isn't it?
So it'd be interesting to see how. So after that we got 2 strange blowouts. The Knicks blew out the Bucks by 20, and the Cavs blew out the Sixers by 24. So
Colin Sexton picked him up for my fantasy team.
I mean, that was interesting to see.
Expect Colin Sexton to have a big year.
The Cavs have been balling.
They look
3-0.
They're fun to watch as well.
They're good to watch. They're fun to watch.
Yeah, they might make the playoffs. You know,
Piling up stats as well.
I didn't even know
Yeah.
JaVale McGee was on that
Wow.
team,
Imagine.
but he is.
Yeah, I saw when the move happened. I was pretty confused.
Yeah, it's pretty
When I saw
confusing.
it, I was like,
Was it a fact
that's
that like the
interesting.
Lakers didn't pick him up, or was it that he wanted to move? I don't know. What was it?
I can't. Yeah, I think he left.
Okay, that's strange.
So
I don't know
obviously
why he'd
after
leave the
following the
Lakers for the
championship,
Cavs.
every
But
player wanted to,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
the
that makes
opportunity. I
sense.
guess. Yeah, they just want to catch out on off that because he's just come off. Was he on the Lakers last year?
Who?
Anyway, he's got 3 rings right now. You know,
Yeah,
he's
JaVale
had
was on the Lakers last year. Did you not watch the vlogs?
no, not last year. Jeez, man,
Oh,
I know last
I
year.
thought, I
I mean the
thought, I
season.
thought that's what you said.
I mean the season LeBron, the season they missed the playoffs. And I don't think he
I
was with the
think.
Warriors still, right?
Wait, let me just check Wikipedia quick.
The Warriors.
He was still on the Warriors. No, he was on the Lakers. He joined in 2018, so he was there for that
Okay.
season. They missed the playoffs.
Yeah, so I mean, he's had a few years where he's gone to winning teams, you know, for smaller contracts. So I guess, you know, I mean, Dwight left as well.
I do like how JaVale McGee has reinvented himself though, as like JaVale McGee to like JaVale McGee who actually can contribute off the bench.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah,
good to see. And
yeah,
you know, his vlogs were good as well. So keep it up, JaVale. But yeah, those were 2 crazy blowouts. But there's an even crazier blowout, a historic blowout that I know you've been dying to talk about
there.
because it involves your
There?
favorite team. Yeah, do you not remember the Dallas Mavericks? They played the LA Clippers. Your favorite team with your favorite player.
LA Clippers.
Yeah.
LA Clippers. Oh, LA has 2 teams. Oh, oh yeah.
Yeah. So just in case.
All right.
The Dallas Mavericks were, playing the LA Clippers last night in a Boxing Day game. Looked as if it would be a tasty game, tight game, a repeat of the Western Conference playoffs. And at halftime, the score was 77 to Dallas Mavericks and 27 to the Los Angeles Clippers, an all-time NBA halftime deficit, down by 50 points. And it didn't get better for the Clippers after half either, with the game ending 124 to the Mavericks to 73 to the Clippers. And Josh was having a great time with this one in the group chat.
I can't say so. When I saw this matchup, firstly I was surprised because I didn't know it was quite an early game, so I was like, oh, nice game, 8:30. You know, watch 2 Western Conference like contenders.
Yeah.
So I thought that'd be good. I mean, Kawhi wasn't playing, but I was like, nah. I mean, Kristaps Porzingis isn't playing, so it should be a good matchup.
Yeah.
I watched the first quarter, and I was like, Clippers don't want to play. I'm not watching this. But it was bad. I mean, I think they were down by 20 at one point. And I kid you not, it must have been 5 minutes that I was off. Just went on Twitter randomly, and I just start seeing they're down by 50, and I'm like, Jesus, like it was just ridiculous. But I mean,
Paul George is really paying back that contract. Really paying that back.
Yeah, coming off a lucrative 5-year max. I don't know how he managed to get another max out of a team. Yeah. That's incredible. I mean, obviously,
top finesse.
They're working. They're out of desperation right now. You know, they don't want to. I mean, OKC have all of their picks, and they don't want to come out of this experiment with both players leaving. So they thought secure one at least. Paul George. I'm gonna be honest. Like, as much as I get on him, I actually thought that he was gonna have a great season this year, at least in the regular season. He was talking a lot about how he got back with his trainer that he had in that MVP level season. in OKC. He put everything in the bubble behind him. You know, he's issuing threats. You know, like it's in trouble for the league.
Yeah.
And, he's got his new braids in. You know, he's he's really on it, but apparently not, because
We started the season
in playoff fashion.
33 points against the Lakers.
Oh yeah, sorry, my bad. Oh my bad. You know, the Clippers started. You know, they got another. They got their back-to-back opening night championship, their Christmas Day championship, back-to-back Christmas Day championship. So it's not completely lost cause right now, but
those will go up in the rafters. Not much else up there.
Yeah, for sure.
I saw a thing like Taylor Swift has more banners in the Staples Center than
it has more.
The Clippers.
Yeah.
Sad times, but yeah, we know you love your Paul George rant, so go ahead, man.
Honestly, I don't have a lot to say that I have already said. All I will say is, not even with Paul George, is that with Kawhi sat down there, you know, with a possibly broken jaw, you know, watching the whole disaster play out, you have to think that with this being his last season, you know, he's got a player option this year, that, in my opinion, I feel like I see him leaving this offseason. I don't know where to, though. Yeah, Kawhi.
Well, come to the Bulls. Come be a backup to Patrick Williams, man. Be a good six, man. Be a good six.
Make the Knicks great again, man. Maybe the Lakers
they need a lot more than Kawhi Leonard. Or if he went to the Lakers, oh my god,
he'd have to go down a minimum contract.
Yeah, I was gonna say, surely they don't have the cap for that.
Nah, they don't.
But yeah, the Clippers. The Clippers. A lot of people were touting them again as title favorites this year. And obviously one loss isn't going to change that, but that is it was a very worrying defeat. Obviously Kawhi was sitting out, but that's no excuse for losing by that much. And you know, it's a historic defeat.
To me, the loss just highlights that why I see the Lakers repeating is that, I mean, before at least the Nets showed that they're definitely gonna be a threat.
Yeah.
The Clippers haven't really addressed any of the issues that led to their defeat. They need a playmaker, a playmaking point guard, like a legitimate point guard. They can't have Patrick Beverley, you know, just racking up, I don't know, shouting out other point guards and clapping on the bench, you know. They need an actual point guard that's actually going to run the show for them, and they weren't able. That was the one thing that they weren't able to address.
Couldn't get
you know, signing Serge Ibaka, that's all good, that's great. I mean, but you know, they let go of Montrezl Harrell, which I don't think that was a bad idea, even looking back on it now. But they weren't really,
especially
they made
they got
narrow, you know, movements. You know. Yeah. I mean, they didn't really do much. They didn't do anything transformational to their squad.
Yeah.
So they still need to make moves, you know, before the next trade deadline or whatever, to really get a point guard that will help with the playmaking, or they're just going to be destined for the same fate, really. And it showed again that they just get up for the Lakers.
Was that point guard available in the off season though? Maybe someone like Ricky Rubio, but I don't know. Was it available? Do you think in the off season?
I mean, you know, they could have, you know, if they're really worried about Kawhi leaving and they really want to, you know, maximize on their ability to win now, they could have gone after a player like Chris Paul.
Yeah.
Through trade, they could have gone after, you know, Ricky Rubio. Even it doesn't have to be a high level player. It's not really about the talent of the player. It's just about them not having a true point guard right now that can run the show for them properly.
Yeah.
Because I've seen, you know, I saw I'm talking about getting players like Derrick Rose, even earlier in the season, crazy like Russell Westbrook, but that doesn't feel what they need. They don't need a player to, because a lot of their team is just shot creators really right now. It's just players that are, you know, taking tough shots. And last night, when I was watching the game, something that the broadcast picked up on was that a lot of their shots, they were in and out. They weren't just straight airballing or straight hitting.
Yeah.
They weren't, giving us playoff P side of the backboard. I had to throw that one in.
What has Paul George done to you, Josh? What has he done to you? What has he done to you for this?
It's too fun, man. It's too fun. I'm an OKC fan. I'm enjoying all this. But anyway, they need, like, a lot of their shots that they create for themselves are difficult shots. And they've got, Paul George is a difficult shot maker, at least in the regular season. And Kawhi is as well. But that's not something that you can rely on for an extended, for playoff series when they take away what you want to do the most and things like that. They need a player that, like Chris Paul, that can slow the game down and get the best shots possible. So until they address that, I don't really see them advancing further than they did last year, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, it does feel kind of eerily similar to that team, as you said. I know they've got a new threat now in the Brooklyn Nets. Even if they were to get past the Lakers, would they get past the Nets? So, I think calling for the Clippers to be as favorites is a bit naive. I think obviously they'll be right up there with the Lakers in the regular season, but it's just, can they overcome that hurdle in the playoffs? It's going to be a mental barrier as well. Blowing a 3-1 lead has a big effect on the team, especially when you've invested so much. You've got two superstars. I'm not sure if you can call Paul George a superstar these days, but two people you've invested heavily in, and they still can get you past the Denver Nuggets. So, and if they've got Kawhi leaving looming over their head, that will add even more pressure. It's just a funny franchise. It's just a funny franchise. The Clippers. It is a funny
all time.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been through it. If you're a Clippers fan right now, man,
it's like the Knicks, but with higher expectations. Yeah. I feel like if you support the Knicks, you're like, okay, we're bad, but we're bad every year. If you're the Clippers, you're like, okay, this is our year. Then it's not.
With the Knicks, at least there's the hope. At least with the Knicks, there's the hope. Like, it's New York City.
Yeah.
They are going to get some free agent at some point. Like, if the Knicks
but it's also LA, though.
They can get free agent.
You know what I mean?
But, like,
so it's also LA.
Yeah, but you've also got, I don't know. I feel like more so the Knicks than it being New York. Because obviously, yeah, it's New York as well. But they've got like that. I don't know, they've got that, they've got MSG and all of that. But and at least the Knicks had, they had prominent years, even though it was a long time ago, I think they last won in the 70s, but they had competitive teams in the 90s. Even, they had a couple seasons with Melo, earlier seasons where they were respectable. But the Clippers, they've never made it past the second round.
Yeah.
And they've been, the joke of the league since they came in.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe they need to leave Staples. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe.
But, they need to do everything they can to keep Kawhi for sure.
Oh, for sure. Because then questions start to arise if Kawhi leaves. Like right. So we're stuck with Paul George for another 4 years. What do we do? Do we reset, or do we, make a half-hearted attempt to try to be good? They'd be stuck in that limbo, as I described it earlier. With the Warriors.
They have to be good.
Yeah, they have to be good. They have to be good. Them locking up Paul George.
Thank you.
Big risk.
Yeah.
Big risk for the
interesting situation.
Yeah, stress. And I'm sure we'll be there all the way laughing at them as they go through it.
Yep.
Especially you.
Especially me.
I wanted to speak about the Mavericks though. This is a team I'm going to be tuning into a lot this year, and obviously that reason is mostly because of Luka Doncic. They didn't start the season too well, but they were very impressive last night. Obviously, they did lose a key piece in Seth Curry. Where do you think the Mavs? What's the ceiling for them this season?
Obviously, I don't know the full situation of Porzingis. I think because I was when we had our fantasy league draft, I was looking at his timetable for returning, and I think they said it wasn't too far in the future, like around February.
Yeah.
So they will have him, for
didn't stop me from
decent chunk. They're having for a decent chunk of the season, and definitely going into the playoffs. So I feel they were, his injury and his ejection early in the series, and uh, Luka's injury away from probably beating the Clippers in the first round. And I feel like Luka is really going to make that next step this season. I see him as a MVP candidate 100%. For sure, especially with 100%. Carry the load with Porzingis out.
I think
sure,
for me,
he's definitely a front runner.
I think for me, he's my favorite for MVP.
Definitely a favorite. I think he's the odds-on favorite anyway.
Yeah, I think the biggest stumbling block for him will be where the Mavericks finish seeding-wise, but he will definitely put the numbers up to be front runner for that. And I've just checked the fantasy app, and apparently Rick Carlisle said that Porzingis is weeks, not months, away from his return. So I don't think it's quite February.
Okay.
It might be mid to late January. So they'll obviously be a better team when they get him back. But no, it's going to be a really fun team to watch. And obviously Rick Carlisle is a really good offensive coach as well. So I think they could definitely finish anywhere between 7th to 3rd. That's where I see this team. Obviously 3rd might be a bit of a stretch, but I just think when you've got a superstar like Luka leading your team.
With that, when you've got a superstar like Luka, he is that type of player that is a matchup problem in the playoffs, regardless of who he's playing, and that gives you a chance in whatever series, whoever you're playing against. Because there's no 2017 Warriors in this league right now. So at that point, anything is possible, and they can. So it's not far-fetched to see them in the conference finals as much as any other team with the Lakers. I feel like it's the Lakers, and then it's everyone else right now.
Yeah, for sure. There's a chance that Porzingis doesn't come back. I hope they don't. What I'm going to say is I hope they don't rush Porzingis back. I don't think they need to. I think Luka's, he's a good enough player to carry that load by himself for now. But I think a lot depends on him staying healthy. He's unfortunately been plagued with. Well, to be fair, before that ACL, he wasn't too injury prone, but after it, he's been kind of plagued with injuries since. So we're hoping he can come back and be healthy for a sustained period. But he's another player that he's got all the potential in the world. Kristaps Porzingis, if he can have I think he's in his 6th season now. And he's shown throughout all those 6 years what he's about. It's just about, can he do what he does to the highest ability he can? And if you're constantly getting disrupted by injuries, it's hard to do that. But when he comes back, I really expect him to kick on and be right up there for sure. We're going to move swiftly into our next topic, and we're going to call it back to the off season. However short it was, there was some big news in it. Most importantly, I would say, being with people extending contracts. There wasn't really many free agents on the market, so there's a few good signings here and there, but nothing, front page worthy. But with contract extensions, you had some big names re-signing around the league. You had Giannis signing the biggest contract in NBA history. You had LeBron James extending his contract with the Lakers by 2 years, which will subsequently mean he will be a free agent when his son graduates from high school. So, he said it's always a dream to play with his son. So that could be a reality very soon. You had AD signing a 5-year extension with the Lakers. Paul George, as we've hinted to before, signing a 5-year extension with the Clippers, which could turn out horribly, could turn out well, who knows? Probably horribly. And also Rudy Gobert got the Supermax from the Utah Jazz, which raised a lot of eyebrows amongst the league. I feel like he kind of held them for ransom with that deal there, because he said he wasn't going to sign for anything below that, and they eventually gave in to his demands. But Josh, out of those contract extensions, which do you think is the most sensible, and which do you think is the least sensible? We'll rate them. We'll go from least to most. Which do you think is the least sensible extension there?
Well, real quick, right before I go into that, I feel like as big as these deals were, and especially with the Giannis deal, uh, the biggest impact that a lot of these deals have is the fact that it takes these players off the market for 2021, which looked to be quite a big free agency.
Mm-hmm.
It looked to be on, on the scale of 2020, of 2019. So with these players out, it puts Kawhi up there as probably the premier free agent with not
Yep.
a lot of competition. So it makes it very interesting. And then I'll start with obviously the Paul George signing, which no, I'm not even a slander.
Yeah. No, it makes sense.
It's not yeah, it sounds bad, but a lot of these deals is about, with this one, with Rudy Gobert, with a lot of them, with Gordon Hayward, like it's
Yeah.
about leverage, it's about situation, and they were forced to do this. They can't, when you give up the assets that you gave up to get Paul George, you have to commit to him.
Yeah,
and
sure.
when you're the Clippers, who this is the first season that you've been able to get free agents of this tier, of this caliber, to commit to you, you kind of have to come out with it, with keeping them, because they're just giving up too much, and they're hoping that obviously keeping him gives Kawhi confidence in staying, or in worst case scenario they still have Paul George. Obviously, if they end this season with only Paul George, that's going to be quite a bleak future for them. And they're hoping that last season was an aberration and that they can really go for it this year, challenge the Lakers, challenge in the West and all of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just feel like there's a lot of implications there of Kawhi, because now when Kawhi does enter free agency, he knows what the situations are, because instead of, Paul George being a free agent as well, and other free agents like possibly AD could have been, possibly LeBron, Giannis, all of these. It was kind of a situation like 2019 where Kawhi could have looked at it like, I could stay in LA, with Paul George, or I could try to attract another free agent to LA, or I could go here or there. Have these conversations with other stars in the league to see what makes most sense. But with a lot of these players, admitting to their situations, now it kind of puts Kawhi in a situation where he knows exactly what every team offers, and it's a cut and dry.
Yeah.
Okay, do I want to bring it back with this specific Clippers team, or do I want to go to a Miami, wherever? So, yeah, that makes it very interesting.
Yeah, a lot of
the
the
Clippers had to do it.
A lot of the weight of that deal depends on Kawhi's decision, obviously. But even after that, a 5-year, supermax extension for Paul George after the playoffs he just had, and after his reputation is at an all-time low, even seems a bit premature. Maybe they could have waited a little bit more to see how he, starts this season. So I look at that deal and it doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence. If I was a Clippers fan, I wouldn't be too happy with that.
Yeah,
they
got Paul George because of Kawhi in the first place. So
yeah,
they're always going to be linked together.
Alongside that deal, I wanted to mention the Rudy Gobert deal as well. Not sure. Well, I think it was something like it's the biggest deal for a big man in NBA history or something.
Yeah, and the third biggest league deal in general as well.
So we all know what Rudy Gobert offers. He's gonna be a Defense Player of the Year candidate every year. But does a player that can only operate within the restricted area, and does he warrant that much money in the modern game? I would argue no. I'm sure you would probably argue no as well. But it's maybe this is a Jazz team on the up. They're not looking to reset anytime soon. So maybe that's part of the reason they decided to extend him. They had that very competitive season with series with the Nuggets. So they probably got aspirations to go deep into the playoffs. So obviously having Gobert on your team is going to benefit, but for that much money for such a small market as the Jazz, it doesn't look too smart on the outside looking in.
Yeah. For me, I think this was definitely a worse deal than Paul George.
Oh,
Even
really?
though Rudy might be, even though Rudy might end up being, a better player or play or perform better, I think that, we just talked about, competitive series with the Nuggets, but at the end of the day, you could say that about, OKC with, the Warriors or the Warriors with the Cavs. They blew a 3-1 lead. And it's not just that they blew a 3-1 lead, but the fashion in which they blew a 3-1 lead, you could see that Donovan Mitchell was definitely a bright spot throughout, dropping 50, going head-to-head, toe-to-toe with Jamal Murray. But he wasn't getting a lot of help outside of that. And I don't think as great as Rudy, as valuable as Rudy can be, you can get value, you can get close to his level of play with with players on a maybe mid-level deal, maybe even not to that extent, but I mean, if you swapped him with Clint Capella, or you swapped him with an even lesser player than that, you're getting that same type of value. And I'm not even sure if that is the type of player that ideally you do pair with Donovan Mitchell. So this definitely complicates things, but they were also able to extend Donovan Mitchell, so that's not an issue in terms of keeping him. But I think that does kind of lower their ceiling as a team. But when you're Utah, Charlotte, Oklahoma, you have to make those deals because you have to keep what you've got. The little that you got, you have to keep. They can't afford really to lose anyone on that level because they're not signing.
And even a lot of
back, so I can't say I blame them.
A lot of free agents they would have targeted next season maybe with that money off the market now. So it's definitely a scenario of keep what you have, but it's a lot of money. Maybe they could have tried hard to find a compromise or a middle ground, but he sounded like from the reports that he was pretty firm on give me this or I won't sign, and they gave him it. So that could have huge implications for their future.
They could have called his bluff.
You think?
They offered him
depends how eager he would have been to stay. Do you know what I mean? If he's like,
it's interesting though.
Yeah, it is very interesting.
There aren't 2019. I don't even think there's 29 teams. I don't think there's 20 teams. I don't think there's 10 teams in the league that would give him anything close to that.
Yeah.
So I don't know what his, if maybe the money's going to keep him in Utah or not. Yeah. But if you look at the other team, there aren't many championship teams in the last, 10 years that have relied on a center, of that mold to win. Because obviously you've got, AD's a big man, but he does a lot more.
Yeah. Very modern.
You've got the Warriors who would just rotate.
Yeah.
They was just rotating, players that no one wanted.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting commitment, but it's a commitment that they kind of had to make. So
yeah. And then next we'll talk about the AD and LeBron. I feel like we should mention these as a pair because I feel like they go kind of hand in hand. Yeah. I don't think AD would have signed if LeBron didn't extend, and I think LeBron probably got the assurance from AD that he was going to extend before he. I can't get my words out. LeBron probably wanted got the assurance from AD that he was going to sign so that he could extend. So this is a no-brainer for everyone involved. Both players just coming off a championship. AD's first, LeBron's fourth. LeBron, as I mentioned earlier, has timed it with his son. Possibly being able to become a professional athlete. And AD, he's well on the way to becoming an all-time great power forward. He could be in that conversation when it's all said and done. So what better place to do it, and what better person to do that with than possibly the greatest player of all time on the most successful franchise of all time that are currently the favorites. So for me, that made sense for everyone. Although I did have that glimmer of hope in the back of my head that he was gonna, come home to Chicago. But we'll see you in 5 years' time. I feel
like if you're AD, even without LeBron signing that, I think I'd be very comfortable signing the next 5 years of my career over the Lakers, especially that now that they've proved that they're, a competent, a more than competent franchise.
Yeah, for sure.
They've just shown that they've been able to improve under Rob Pelinka and Jeanie Buss. And you've got that. LA is probably the best stage in the league. That franchise, they are going to be that franchise that can use their market to get free agents now, especially if you've got AD there. So even if LeBron was to retire next season, they'd definitely be able to get, a high level, a high tier player, to sign there. So that makes the most sense of anything. And I don't think LeBron's trying to leave anyway. I feel like he's found his home now for the rest of his career.
Yeah.
So they're just building on, they fit perfectly together. Neither of them really have to sacrifice too much of their game away. In fact, they've kind of they've definitely fit together perfectly.
For sure,
they can just
great
build around them.
Yeah,
they're just finding what around them, and they're just locking them up. It'll be interesting to see, because how long is Kuzma's deal?
4 years, I think. Let me check.
4 years. So that's interesting. That's definitely interesting. So I think what they've got is what they've got at this point. Contract. But there isn't really a team out there.
It's a 3 year, okay. It's $40 million.
But there isn't. I feel like a lot of these teams were looking at what Giannis was going to do. Because with Giannis committing to the Bucks, I think there's not really potential for any crazy super team to form.
Yeah.
So I feel like LeBron definitely feels like he's in the best position he can possibly be in to win.
Yeah.
To be where he wants to be. So it just makes sense all around, really.
Yeah, it would have been very strange if those two contracts didn't get signed, but they did, and the Lakers look to have a very bright future. Let's go into the one I think probably makes the most sense, which is maybe not for the player, but definitely for the team. Giannis signing back in Milwaukee, committing his future, as he said he was going to do, but there was always a lot of people behind the scenes saying he's looking to move on next season in Miami. It looks like a good destination for him, but he's committed his future with the biggest contract in NBA history. And we all know what Giannis can do. He's an MVP caliber, defensive player of the year caliber player, definitely a top 5 player in this league. So for Milwaukee to not snap up, but like secure such a superstar to what's considered a small market team, that money is very well spent for them. And Giannis has obviously seen something he likes. He's obviously got assurances about what the pieces around him. They did pick up Drew Holiday, which we said in an earlier podcast is a big upgrade on Eric Bledsoe. So he must be satisfied with what they're doing behind the scenes, but it's just can he shake off that what happened last year, that trauma. They were favorites for everyone to go to the finals and they couldn't even make it to the conference finals. So that deal makes a lot of sense for me.
Big win, of course, for Milwaukee, Milwaukee fans, for the Milwaukee organization. Locking him up. In my opinion, I don't think so obviously they made moves. They acquired Drew Holiday. They at least attempted to acquire Bogdanovic. And I heard there were a couple other moves that they were trying to make behind the scenes. But I don't know if Giannis, this deal was available whether he signed it now or whether he signed it in free agency. Obviously, the benefit of signing it now is that that cloud isn't looming over their heads.
Yeah.
But it is interesting because how much of the aggression of the Bucks is about, trying to keep Giannis, and how much of it is going to, continue now that they've got him secured. And obviously he feels confident that they will, but I hope for him, for his career, that they don't go stagnant now. And I don't just mean, with trying to acquire players, but even with their coaching, because now in back-to-back years, they've lost the same way with the same strategy with no adjustments. So you kind of, I'm looking at, what's his name? Blacked. I'm looking at Coach Budenholzer to really make these adjustments this time. Because if they lose because of predictable play again in the playoffs, they kind of need to be aggressive in saying, okay, we need to move on from Budenholzer. But then also Giannis has got to look himself in the mirror as well and see that they are able to put together these game plans because of holes in his own game.
Yeah.
That at this level he's expected to be able to push through and get over that hump. Because they've had 2 back-to-back historical regular seasons and haven't been able to convert them to postseason success. So yeah, I'm happy though. Of course, it's great for the league as well. For a player to stay to commit of his, a superstar to stay with a small market team. It would have been a disaster, and it would have been, not a lot of quite a few players now have declined to sign with that Supermax, which was put in place to keep players with their, the team that drafted them. So I'm sure they're very happy with that.
Yeah, well, Giannis definitely strikes me as someone who's loyal, and like he's not. I don't think he's money motivated. Like he'll choose loyalty over money any day. So yeah, it's good. It's maybe old fashioned, but it's a good trend to see Giannis staying with the Bucks. I would have been concerned if he tried to go form a super team in Miami, because it would have just. I think it would have just been following that same trend. Though, we've seen with Kawhi, we've seen with LeBron and AD, we've seen with Kyrie and what's his name? Kyrie and KD, which all pretty much started with the Warriors. But it would have been a worrying trend. But I'm glad it is definitely refreshing to see that. Oh yeah, it started with Miami originally, but then the Warriors just took that to a whole different level.
I would have liked to see Giannis take the route of because he's not an injury-prone player. No. I would have liked to see him, sign that LeBron Kawhi type deal, 2+1s, 3+1s, to keep the pressure on Milwaukee, because I feel like a team like that might get too comfortable.
Yeah.
And think we've got him locked up, so we don't have to do anything now, and kind of rely on him. And that's why LeBron left, because at the end of the day, he does have to look. As much as I wanted him to stay, he does need to put himself in the best position at his talent level to win a championship. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see there. But good for the Bucks fans. Good for the Bucks for sure.
It is very good for the Bucks, and we'll see how they do. If it would be unfortunate to see what happened to them last season happen again, and obviously then if it did happen, then I think we already knew this, but Budenholzer would have to.
They got to make big move.
Yeah, a lot of things would have to change in that team, and would Giannis be okay with all this change? I'm sure he'd want stability during his 5 years, next 5 years with the Bucks. He wouldn't want chopping and changing every season. So
I think he wants to win more than that.
For sure.
See, I was thinking that they'd make more moves this year. Obviously, they did attempt to, but
no. But when I say changes, I mean more like behind the scenes, like backroom stuff. Like obviously personnel, you want to be around the best players that can help you win, but do you want to be adapting to a new coach's system every season? Obviously, that system is probably going to be centered around him, but it's just it's probably not best for him. And can a team win that's like chopping and changing all the time? So he'll definitely want someone that he can trust as his head coach. And does he trust Budenholzer? he clearly has to have trust in him because he signed a 5-year deal, knowing that Budenholzer is going to be the
Yeah,
coach for the
I mean,
foreseeable
they were.
future.
Yeah, but I mean, he didn't like when they. I remember he wasn't happy when they got rid of Jason Kidd either. So,
Yeah,
I mean, he'll get, especially now that they've committed to him, he'd get a lot of say in who they got, and it
yeah,
would definitely be an upgrade. I'm sure a coach would be rushing to coach Giannis. So yeah, no, it's interesting. But at the end of the day, as bad as Budenholzer's been with making adjustments, a lot of this stuff is symptoms of a bigger issue, which is um, Giannis's inability to create shots for himself in playoff situations.
yeah,
And obviously they've helped with getting Drew Holiday, who's performed quite well so far. But yeah, that's something that they need to fix. That's something he needs to fix himself. He did have, I think he had he's not shooting amazingly still. So, and he had those, that he missed that potentially game winning free throw. So there's definitely some mental issues there with him. But
yeah.
now he's a bright player. He's improved every year. So yeah, now it's definitely good for them. Both
100%.
sides, I think, and he's got generational wealth for his family as well. So
Yeah,
that's great.
that's always a little bonus there, just signing the biggest contract in NBA history.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's all we've got for today. Thank you very much for joining us once again for another Full Court Talk podcast. It's good to be back with the NBA in full swing. We're gonna try and get these out more regularly. There's new storyline presenting itself each and every day, which is why we didn't really record in the off season because it's a bit slower. But with the NBA season in full effect, we should be back more regularly. Thank you everyone for listening. If you did get to this part, hope you have a better 2021 than 2020. We all hope that. And let's just enjoy basketball, man, for what it is. These are uncertain times, but what we can be certain of is that the Bulls won't be getting that 8th seed, probably. Appreciate it, man.
What we can be certain of is that Sam Presti has your draft pick for sure, 100%.
Okay, well,
whoever you are.